Hi guys, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Cleo, which is an AI-powered chatbot that helps you get in control of your finances. Cleo's mission is to radically improve everyone's relationship with money. The way it works is that you connect your bank account details and then Cleo will have access to all your spending data as well as how much you have on your account. Cleo can't mess with your money, but it can view all of your data. The app's main features allow you to categorize your expenses, set a budget, set saving goals, and more, including chatting with the bot Cleo. Then there's Cleo Plus, which gives you access to some further features, such as a $100 salary advance and more comprehensive saving goals. This means that they operate on a freemium business model, so the basic features are accessible to everyone for free, and then for an additional monthly subscription, you get access to more features, just like Spotify. I have been using the app since the beginning of the year 2021 because I was struggling to find an effective and time-efficient way to budget and to save, so I decided to give Cleo a try, and this is my review from a product perspective. Alright, so first of all, let's think about the business objective. So I think that the main metric that Cleo wants to track is user retention. Since they operate on a freemium business model, I assume that Cleo wants the user to use Cleo for long enough so that by the end of it, they are convinced of the value of the product and then they want to pay for Cleo Plus to get access to more features. But to do that, Cleo needs to lengthen the number of months users use Cleo for, which is the definition of the retention metric. I think Cleo's target users are people in their 20s like me who are learning the joys and sorrows, mostly sorrows, about tracking your money, setting a budget, and saving. Because let's face it, no matter how good your spreadsheet is, budgeting is a time-consuming and draining task. Saving is equally time-consuming and it's difficult. Cleo is a great product because it turns boring tasks into seamless experiences and difficult tasks into easy ones. So given this problem for people in their 20s, Cleo is great at a lot of things. For example, a main problem for me before I started using Cleo was that I found it, one, very boring, and two, very time-consuming to track every single expense at the coffee shop, for example. It just wasn't realistic. With Cleo, I don't need to worry about doing that. At the end of the month, I just review all the expenses and sometimes correct the category in which Cleo put my expense in. The user experience is delightful in the app. It's very simple as well and very intuitive. So you have the main page where you have an overview of how much you have in your bank account, an update about how you're doing in your weekly or monthly budget and things of that sort. And then you have a budget page where you can see in more detail what's happening inside your monthly budget or your weekly one. There's also a saving page where you can set your saving goals and track what's going on there. And you have an accounts page as well with just your information there. You also have the page where you can chat with Cleo. This is super helpful because there's a bunch of different features just in this bot. So you can ask Cleo how much you have left in your bank account for this month. You can ask Cleo if you can afford a cup of coffee. So as I said, it's very easy to use the app. In view of the mission of making everyone's relationship with money better, Cleo also has these quizzes which happen in the chat with Cleo. And you can choose to do this weekly or monthly, it doesn't matter, but Cleo can make you enter these quizzes for a money prize. And then Cleo will ask you questions about your spending habits. So she'll ask you, are you over budget or under budget this week? Or what was your biggest expense this week? And this forces you to think back on your expenses of the week and in the process become more aware of your spending habits. Last thing I wanted to mention as well is that I've noticed that it uses the hook model, which I've talked about in my last video. So the hook model has 4 phases. There's trigger, action, reward, and investment. The trigger phase for Cleo is the internal emotion of feeling like we don't know how much we have in our bank account, the uncertainty of do I have enough money for coffee, for example? And this triggers us, this makes us open the app to check. Next comes the action. So the action is just opening the app, chatting with Cleo, asking Cleo a question, for example. And this is done in anticipation of the reward, which is the 3rd phase. And the reward can just be Cleo answering you and telling you how much you have and telling you if you can spend money on a coffee. But what's really great is that Cleo uses the variable rewards that we talked about in the last video as well. So there's the quizzes, which I mentioned, where the prize that when you enter the competition, the prize varies. You could either get out of the competition with nothing. You could get, I think, £50, sometimes it's £100. And another aspect of the variable reward in this app is the fact that Cleo herself is unreliable. So when you ask her a question, she could be very encouraging and tell you you're doing great, but she could also roast you. There's actually this roast mode where Cleo will tell you everything that's wrong with your spending habit. And this very fact that you don't know how Cleo will react to what you're asking her or what you're saying to her is a variable reward in itself. And then there's the final phase, investment phase, which is the fact that you invest your financial data in the app, which will make you want to come back because you know that you invested some data there. Okay, so I've talked about a few reasons why Cleo is a great product, but now I'm going to suggest a few ways in which I would improve the product. So I'm going to list a few problems that I've thought about and then prioritize the two which I think are most painful for the user. First, I thought that Cleo could tell the users the sustainability impact of their purchases. Second, I thought that Cleo could allow budgeting for joint expenses, just like Notion, for example, allows for sharing a page with another user and then sharing the data and the information there. This would be especially helpful for partners and for families and for flatmates. Third, I would have Cleo utilize the 50-30-20 budgeting rule, which is basically a rule coined by Elizabeth Warren in her book All Your Worth. And the basic rule is to divide your after-tax income and then allocate it to spend 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, and 20% you put to the side for saving. And the fourth idea is to let you budget for a longer period than a month. So if you want to budget for 3 months, for 2 months, have Cleo let you do that, because currently you can only budget for monthly. In my opinion, the two most urgent problems are number 2 and 3. So now I'm going to make a list of a few solutions to problems 2 and 3 and then rate them based on how useful they would be for the user and how easy they would be to implement. So first off, budgeting for joint expenses. So one way to do this would be to allow for users to connect with each other in the app. So you could either do this by searching for a user in the app or by putting in their bank account details and joining yourself with them in this way. You would then send a request to the user, and if they accept your request, you would then have a joint account in Cleo. This way, you could budget for expenses that you share together. So for example, if you have a joint account with a partner, you could budget for travel, food, and bills. I suggest that you could tag the expense not only by category, but also as a joint expense so that the app knows that this is a joint expense. Once you have this set up, the possibilities are endless. You could even have Cleo roast you as a couple rather than as an individual. A trade-off that I realize we have here is that this would potentially add some friction for the user. So imagine if every time I spend money for a joint expense, I then have to go into the app and mark it as a joint expense. This would add considerable friction, but I don't see another way to do this. I don't think Cleo could tell whether when you bought a meal, this was only for you or for you and your partner, for example. So I think you would have to go into the app and tell Cleo this was a joint expense. On the other hand, the added value of this solution would be that if I use a Cleo already and then I want to track my expenses with my flatmates or with my partner, then this would be a very strong incentive for my flatmates or for my partner to also get Cleo. So in the end, it would add up users for Cleo, which is a good thing. Given these considerations though, I would rate the solution only a 2 out of 5. The other solution I thought of for this suggestion would be to allow for couples, and I stress that this would only work for couples probably. So to allow for couples that already have a bank account together to link up their card details to Cleo. And what it would be different from this and just an individual card would be that both people in the couple would have access to the same account via their different phones. The advantage of the solution is that it's more feasible than the solution I talked about before because it would be frictionless for the users. But it would mean that only couples who have already a bank account together could use this feature. Nonetheless, given the balance of advantage and disadvantage, I would rate the solution a 3 out of 5. So the second suggestion is using the saving model 50-30-20. First off, this would further Cleo's goal of improving everyone's relationship with money, because this saving rule helps you visualize the long-term goal and be strict with where you're spending your money. So in my opinion, right now, Cleo is really good at helping you understand your spending habits and your specific spends, but it's not that good yet at giving you the big picture. And utilizing the saving model would help you get this big picture, because it would be very clear that 50% of your income, post-tax income, is going to your needs, and then only 30% to the things you want and to the luxuries, and then 20% set aside for saving. Also, it's hard for a lot of people, and by a lot of people I mean people in their 20s, to distinguish between a want and a need. So this would be a great way to help them. I think this is feasible since Cleo already has the infrastructure to do this and to use this rule. So they already know your spending habits. They already tell you the percentage of your income that you're spending on which category, and she already tells you about your patterns. So I think it would be quite easy to implement this rule and then show it to the user as a nice little pie chart in the main page. And also Cleo could use this rule to help you and guide you when you are setting a budget in the app. So based on feasibility and on the removal of user pain, I would rate the solution a 4 out of 5. Okay, so to sum up, I just reviewed the product Cleo and suggested how I would improve it. Overall, Cleo is a great product because it makes boring tasks into seamless experiences and difficult tasks into easy ones. I would improve the product by allowing for a feature that allows you to budget with another person or persons, and by incorporating the saving model 50-30-20. I argued that the best way to achieve the first improvement would be to allow for couples who already have a shared bank account together to open a Cleo account together and track their expenses there. And then I would carry out the second improvement by making Cleo help you budget based on this saving rule and also include it in her feedbacks to you. While Cleo is not necessarily the best product for people who are already very savvy with their finances, it is great for people in their 20s. And I have read in the Cleo website that they are planning on building an investment product. So this would certainly be interesting for people who are more savvy with their finances. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments. Bye!